Welcome back, my friends. I sure do appreciate everyone who tunes in and listens to the Gunn Show, presented by MTDCNC. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining us. We love you. We appreciate you. But if you've tuned in for weapons or you tuned in for muscles, sorry about your luck, my friends. We may talk a little bit about both of those, but the show itself is about humanizing a really powerful industry of manufacturing and engineering. We want to show you the people that we want to showcase who they are, why they are, how they are, all the R's that go along with who, what, when, why, how, right? So today, I want to welcome a very special guest and a topic that I'm extremely excited to talk about, which is cobots, robots, automation. And I have with me the business development manager from UR, my buddy, Michael DeGrace. He is such a good dude. And we're going to learn a little bit more about who he is, why he is, how he is, and what got him into the world of robotics and automation, since he actually has a bachelor's degree in chemical and biochemical engineering. This is the Gunn Show. Put your hands together for my friend Michael. How are you, buddy?
Doing wonderful. Yeah, been really busy, but super excited to be here. And yeah, can't wait to talk to you. I'm really excited about this topic. Yeah, looking forward to a great discussion.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here. And because I didn't in the beginning thank all of our returning listeners as well, let me just say thank all of you also. Keep coming back. We love you. So we always on this show, you know what it's about. They know what it's about. It's about humanizing the incredible people within an industry that makes everything around us, the cars, the planes, the boats, the shoes, everything. I mean, look at it. Look at what we're doing. So with that being said, I know some of your history, but I know you're into volunteering and you're a really good human being as a whole. I would love to kind of spotlight that human part aspect about you, my friend.
Yeah. So ever since I was in high school, just like to volunteer. I like to work with my hands. I like to go out, and I always tell them, so I have two brothers and all three of us were engineers. Both my grandparents on both sides of my family are engineers. I come from an engineering family. But I always felt like I was an engineer that didn't want to be like what a traditional engineer would do, like behind a desk. I'm a people person. So I like to go out. I like to interact with people. I like that element of things. So volunteering was just always something that was interesting. I've gone to church ever since I can remember. And that was just the easiest one of the easiest outlets to get involved in that. So I volunteered with the Special Olympics when I was in high school. I did swim coaching. I thought that was so cool. The people are absolutely incredible, and you learn so much too. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I like to tell people I volunteered for a long time actually at our church here with the high school group, and told the high schoolers there, man, if you want something really rewarding, go and work with like the Special Olympics, because you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about others, and there's some of the greatest people I've ever met.
Can you share, would you mind sharing a specific, I would love to hear a specific, maybe favorite moment or a memorable moment, whatever stands out to you, you go, man, that one time just really changed who I was.
Oh my gosh. One of the things that I admire the most about the athletes that I worked with is I would maybe like their try factor, or just the tenacity when they I mean, it's amazing when you watch someone put their mind to something and they say, I will accomplish this task. So I coach swimming, right? And so I get to watch these athletes get in the pool, they'll do their warm up, and then they say, okay, today I'm going to accomplish this. I've got this milestone out ahead of me, and I know it's hard. And with special needs, it's not always comfortable to do these really challenging physical tasks. And I was just floored by when these athletes would say, I've set my mind to this, I'm going to do it. And they make it look easy. Yeah, in one particular task there was a student or a coach who was working with a athlete, trying to swim a mile, right? The goal was to get a mile. And that's a grueling task anyway, right? Let alone, I mean, running a mile is a grueling task. So getting this person in the pool and then just watching the try, because I know how hard that is. I was amazed. I've just sheer power of the mind, like to overcome this difficult thing. Yeah, really, really cool. And then I've gotten to do quite a lot with special needs. I worked at when I was in college, I worked at a little local bar. I went to school in Golden, Colorado, at a very small engineering school there, Colorado School of Mines. And there was a restaurant that I'd worked at that employed lots of special needs. And I've grown a really, I guess, a close relationship with that community. I think they're incredible people, really incredible people.
So not to get too personal, do you have anyone in your family that has special needs that led you in this direction? Because personally, I don't mind sharing with the global audience that listens to me talk way too much all the time, but I do have some family members in that situation. And so just by being exactly who you are, Michael, and all the people listening out there, don't get jealous about what I'm about to say, but Michael, you've instantly made like my top 5 best friends list. So I just wanted to say that out loud. But what inspired you to get into it to start with?
You know what? I have to credit. I had a friend in high school who this was just his heart. This is where his heart was. And he actually was the one that got me into coaching, right? For swim. Because it was something that I don't know that I would have thought of off the top. But I mean, some of the stuff that I had done, I don't know if I'd ever been in a corporate sort of volunteering position until this point. But I had gone with church activities before and done like volunteering at like a homeless shelter or trash pickup in the community, but I'd never done anything quite like as organized, I would say, maybe as working with the Special Olympics. Yeah, I really have to credit a buddy of mine who had just said, just wait till you get into the pool with these guys. You'll fall in love. And he was right. He was right. Yeah, I don't have any special needs, at least that I'm aware of in my family, or my my immediate family, I guess I would say. But yeah, I have this buddy of mine in high school that I got to thank for getting me out, maybe helping me to think about a different way to volunteer that I wouldn't have come up with on my own.
Brilliant, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. So let's talk a little bit about the direction of where you went with school and how you ended up where you are now. We mentioned already a little bit that you do have a bachelor's degree in chemical and biochemical engineering. So everyone out there knows you're a lot smarter than I am straight off the jump. So well done there. And you said it's a small school, Colorado School of Mines, which is kind of neat. And you, through a few years of, R&D process engineering as an intern, GES supply chain and some other areas of expertise, you've slipped into a really fun and massively growing area of our industry and manufacturing, which is the Cobots world with Universal Robots. So I would love to learn a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah. So I went to high school actually in 2 different states. So I've lived all over the United States, everywhere from North Carolina on the East Coast, all the way out here to Arizona, where I currently live. And I get asked all the time, are your parents military, or was your dad, a military guy? Why'd you move so much? I have no idea. My dad's in food sales. Worked for companies like, Nabisco, ConAgra, that kind of world. So I just felt like we were always moving to get closer to headquarters, usually. Yeah, but I lived in Loveland, Ohio, just outside Cincinnati, for my freshman through my junior year of high school. And my grandfather, actually, on my mom's side, is the reason I wanted to go to this college, this School of Mines in Golden. He's a mines alumni. He was a petroleum engineer. So I guess technically his degree is chemical engineering, but he worked in chemical refining for Mobil for his entire career. And I got to hear sort of secondhand, right, the projects that he was doing, the kind of work that he did. And I was always intrigued by that. Science, math, specifically chemistry, was one of my favorite classes in high school. I liked physics a lot too, but just there was something cool about chemistry class always felt a little bit like magic to me. You know, I just, things are changing colors in beakers, or they're, you know, in some cases they're blowing up. I always thought that was really interesting. So when I got to this school in Colorado, I had moved out after my junior year of high school from Loveland, Ohio to Arvada, Colorado. And yeah, I went into college thinking I wanted to be in some kind of chemical field. Truth be told, actually, when I was a freshman, I didn't really know what chemical engineers did. It just had it had the word chemical in it, and I knew I liked chemistry. So I didn't want to be an analytical, like a chemist, because I liked the mathematics too. I wanted to be in engineering, but I wanted to incorporate chemistry somehow into that. So chemical engineering felt like a great fit. Originally, actually, my goal was I wanted to do med school. Part of my jobs when I was in like my late high school years and then early college years was I was a lifeguard. And so I never got woozy or anything with, you know, if there was blood or if there was first aid stuff I had to do. And I felt like, well, maybe I could do some practice of medicine. I wanted to be a surgeon. And then I did a cadaver lab and it creeped me out. And so I decided not to do that anymore. By the time I was a sophomore, junior in college, I started to learn more of what chemical engineering is, and some of the industries I could go into, and I was really excited. So I liked the biology element. The biology element of my degree is why, or it came from my desire to want to be in medical. And I like biology was always memorization for me, and I've got a pretty good ability to remember. So yeah, I went through college pretty dead set on working in the chemical engineering field, which is actually why my internship, I worked for White Wave Foods, which is out of well, they've been acquired now, but they were out of Broomfield, Colorado, and then I was a process engineer with them. So I got to do things like test alternative protein sources. You know, White Wave was really interested in looking at what does pea protein look like in some of their drinks. They make they were involved in things like Silk soy milk, right, and like Horizon organic milk. So I got to do a little bit of that, and that was true chemical process engineering. After school was over and after I had that internship experience, I decided to use my degree at Frito-Lay. There's a plant in the Denver area. And so I came in, got experience across the plant. I worked in manufacturing, the warehouse, all of it, and was eventually deployed to this area called GES, right? And GES at this Denver site is the automated section of the warehouse. So I felt a little tiny bit like a fish out of water with a chemical engineering degree, working, you know, largely with PLCs, conveyor, different, you know, components like pneumatics and electromechanical actuators, cylinders, that kind of thing, and then even robots. And Frito had used robotic arms to accomplish tasks in palletizing or in case transfer, all that kind of stuff. So I got my first sort of exposure to the automation world at Frito in this warehouse site. I worked with them for about a year, and I made a connection with a very, very close friend of mine who worked for Festo, which is a German engineering, you know, pneumatics, electromechanical, they're huge product line, the Festo line card. And I decided to join the Festo team as originally as a office-based sales engineer. So I made a transition from maybe what I would call true engineering into like commercial engineering, sales engineering. And I got to really learn components, got a better idea of how PLCs work, what actually goes on in controls. And I was at Festo for a couple of years. They were an incredible company. Really I don't know how much you've seen Festo or know about what they do, but they're privately owned. There's a big R&D push internally at Festo. So they come out with all of these really cool products. One of the things that was really interesting when I joined Festo was I learned about their bionic learning network. And so, you know, if you look at Festo stuff on YouTube, you'll see like they'll create jellyfish or, you know, bionic penguins or animals that represent some sort of key principle in manufacturing. And I was like, that's so cool. I don't know anybody else that's doing anything like that. Through a connection I had at Festo, I got contacted from Universal Robots. And actually at the time I was not really looking to get out of Festo's. I was really happy. And I was in Colorado again. I was excited about that. I had taken a brief stint in Arlington Heights in Illinois, but had come back to Colorado, was excited about some of the work we were doing. But this guy called me from UR and he had said, hey, I've got something really special. This Cobot is not like anything you've seen before. And what won me over actually was what I use to tell customers even now is the demo. I went in for an interview and this gentleman demoed the robot for me, and I was floored by how user friendly it is. I'm not, again, right? I'm a chemical engineer. I have no formal background or training in robotic programming, and for someone to be able to in about 5 minutes hand me a teach pendant and let me start doing like picking up blocks and moving stuff around with a robot arm, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And yeah, UR had won my heart since that point on. And it's been really, really exciting working for Universal Robots.
When was the last time you thought about work holding? How long did it take you to change over the clamping devices on your CNC machines? Days? Maybe hours? Don't let work holding be an afterthought. With the Heimbuch system, changeovers can be done in seconds without readjustment of the runout. No longer do you have to turn down jobs because you don't have the right work holding. When flexibility is critical, add a mandrel, 2 or 3 jaw adaptation onto your collet chuck. Use it on your turning and milling machines. With such a low maintenance system, you will see less machine downtime and your profits will soar. To learn more about the Heimbuch system, visit www.heimbuchamerica.com or call 414-358-9550. So I'm gonna bring up a couple of things because what a great, fascinating story you just shared, and I enjoyed every bit of it. But I see where your personality comes from, and how outgoing you are based on how much you moved around. You got removed from a comfortable situation your junior year, right? And you had to go to school somewhere else, and so your ability to communicate in unique situations is obviously a gift through that traveling with your dad and chasing down the headquarters of Nabisco and everyone else you mentioned, right? Yeah. I also like to mention that as we go back through your original share with the Special Olympics, you mentioned you were a lifeguard and you went into swimming and helped there. So coming full circle, also kind of cool, just so you know, I lifeguarded for about 7 years. So when you said swimming a mile, I immediately thought back to my testing phase of becoming a lifeguard. I thought I was going to drown, you know? Yeah. So good for them, good for you. So now we're discussing, and I think it's something that we should discuss in depth, not just UR, because we definitely want to focus on the capabilities of what UR can give, but let's talk about the necessity for automation in our industry as a whole. And let's clarify, even though we're doing it regularly, all of us are, but let's clarify some of the misconceptions that still exist on robots and cobots taking jobs. They're not doing that. They're adding jobs. They're creating opportunities for people to be safer and have a better lifestyle while they work. And, you know, we'll go have a back and forth about that whole conversation because
Sure.
FabTech was eye-opening. Your booth at FabTech, incredible. I talk with a lot of your teammates across the country and across the world regularly. I was just invited over to the Netherlands by one of your guys, so I can't wait to do that. But because you are the expert here, and I'm just a guy that talks too much, I would like for you to express your feelings behind why automation as a whole is growing so fast now, and why it's necessary to remove any fear that might still exist and get into this world, because it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly what you said is what's going on. The automation world's growing. And I think I've been for the last couple of years now, I've been with UR for about 4 years, and then been in automation for about 6 now. So for the last few years, I just keep getting the sense that there's not been a better time to automate. And largely the reason for that, in my own experience, is obviously the accessibility of new products. And it's not just, I mean, you can look at safety as one element of that, right? I mean, the universal robot, for example, has the accessibility physically with it being a safe robot, right? It's got this inherent force reading, right? It's this force limiting robot. But also accessibility on the user-friendly side. I think that's so critical to companies successfully automating, is that they're using tools that are intuitive, that they're able, just like you said, upskill their labor force. That's one of the most exciting parts of the job for me, is getting to work with companies that are taking their teams that they're working with now, giving them new skills, new tools, right? Like a cobot arm, and ultimately growing enough to, I mean, most of these companies I work with, that are deploying cobots successfully here, they're growing and then hiring additional people, right? So it's funny. I think, obviously, I know there's this stigma around robotics and taking jobs and everything, but after working in the industry, after actually physically seeing these deployments, and watching how customers are then growing, it would be fun to get more people exposed to what actually is happening behind the scenes, because there's more often than not, it's growth, right? And I will admit, I think jobs are changing, but that doesn't mean there's less jobs. It just means that they're different. You know, for example, robotic programming now, and it's not something that you need, that requires a ton of schooling in many cases. Like the universal robot, I'm confident in about 10, 15 minutes, I can get people up and running and programming things on this product. So, yeah, it's been really fun because it's growing so fast. I love technology, because it doesn't grow at a linear rate. It grows exponentially fast. So by the time you're learning what's out, the next 4 or 5 things are coming. So it's been exciting in that regard as well. And I think that we're at a really cool spot in just automation in general, technology, where things are going, to where the next few years are going to be exciting for everybody that's considering automation. And I would say, if you're not in that place where you're considering it, you're at the back of the wave, right?
Yeah. So if it's okay with you, to support your statement, I'd like to bring up 3 personal experiences, and I'll make them quick because I don't want to talk too much, but it supports everything you're saying. And you can dive into even the capabilities of why they did it, why they created it, you know, because this is your world, right? But
Absolutely.
So a mutual friend of ours, Misa, you know, with Formic, they threw a UR cobot for you guys out there who are still learning universal robots, cobots, robots, the different forms of automation, a UR robot, cobot on there. Like you said, it was moving at a pace where no one was going to get hurt. And they implemented it on a machine that was 50 years old, if not older, and removed a guy from a position that was mundane, repetitive, and very dangerous on a stamping machine that comes crashing in all the time. And he wanted to keep all of his fingers. He did not lose his job. He just moved into a position that he liked more. It wasn't the same mundane repetitiveness. The second one is another company, DFF, amazing, amazing company. 160 employees. They recently implemented, I want to say 2, and I can't give away too many secrets, but at least one $10 million cell, automation cell, and doubled the amount of employees that they had to hire, because it's not taking jobs, it's adding jobs. And then the third one being that we were talking a little bit about FabTech, when we walked around FabTech, we saw so many cobots and robots doing welding and
Yes,
painting, because even just in the welding world, these guys are artists. I mean, they're magicians with what they can do,
they are.
except there's a 400,000 person skills gap in welding alone right now. And if we can teach in a 5 to 15 minute period, like you said, the simplicity of how they work to someone who is an artist and maybe doesn't know how to work a cobot right away, we can teach them and give them confidence within 15 minutes. Now we're reducing that 400,000 person skills gap in places where it really needs to be done, to again reiterate the safety and health and all the stuff that goes along with it, right?
I mean, you're hitting on something that is it's critical, and I don't know if everybody thinks about it this way, but it's mission critical. There are things that humans do that robots can't, right? And there are things that robots do that humans shouldn't do, right? You hit on this element of like the welder being an artist. It's important, right? The guy who's been doing this job for X number of years, he knows exactly what that part needs to look like. He knows exactly what the weld has to be. He's the expert. He's been doing it. So to be able to give that person, instead of thinking about it as replacing a person, you're giving this person a tool that's going to make their life easier, but you still very much rely on the expertise, right? Because that's what they know, that's what they've done. And it's so cool. You've gotten to see some of our partners like Vectis, Robotics, and the way that they do things. And it's all geared around providing a very, very easy to use tool, right? For, someone who doesn't have a pedigree in robotic welding, right? That's exciting.
Yeah, so go into your booth, and this is to support your statement again at FabTech. If you guys would have been selling off-the-shelf cobots, you would have sold out. And what I mean by that is the smiles on these guys' faces and these gals' faces. And you had a partner there, and pardon me, guys who are listening right now, that the name slips my mind, but the technology does not. And we'll be releasing a video from MTD on this technology very soon. But we did an interview, and this guy had his phone, and from his phone, he could do the programming for the cobot right there. And
Yep.
it was literally within seconds, within a couple of minutes. And what I really loved was walking around that show and walking up to your booth and knowing that I see a confused face or a worried face or a worried, fearful face, whatever it might be. And then just a few minutes later, they have that cobot in their hand and they're using that teach pendant, and they've moved that cobot in a circle around a piece of material. And then they press go, and that cobot's doing exactly what it needs to do that weld or that painting or whatever it might. That's the love that I see in your face.
Yeah.
And that brings the joy to mine as well. The passion of what we do is seeing the changes in people and the opportunity that they see moving forward.
Yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, I don't know what the global number would be. But I could tell you in my own experience, right? And the region that I live in and I cover is the four corners of the United States. So I do Arizona, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico. And I would say in that geography, I still encounter maybe 60, 70% of people who don't know what a cobot is or have no experience. Maybe they've heard the word, but they don't know exactly what it is and what it does. And you can see the wheels begin to spin when you put the pendant in their hand, right? And that's one of the most fun parts of the job, is getting to say, okay, this thing that you think is really challenging, because you don't know, and that's fine. This thing that you think is difficult, it isn't, right? And it's extremely powerful in a very intuitive. I love the intuition behind the design of the product. It's intuitive to pick, and I use myself as an example, right? I mean, I know I'm biased, and I've been doing this for years, but I don't have robotic programming as a degree. I for all intents and purposes, I should not be programming robots. But it's really, really fun. And when customers click, when you see the click happen, and then they start to, because what I see, right, when I deploy these things is, for example, I want to deploy to CNC machine tending, but that deburring cell looks like a good fit, and that welding cell looks like a good fit. and that packaging and whatever else, when the customer's wheels begin to click and they start to put together that, hey, it's just swapping a tool and reteaching, that's when it becomes really exciting. Yeah, that's where supercharged growth happens.
Yeah, you're right. And if you need an assistant, let me know. Your territory is an awesome part of the world. I'd be honored to work with you over there, Michael. Just kind of throwing that out there. Just kidding, guys at MTD. I love MTD. I'm just trying to make a fun joke. And your territory is awesome. New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, all of that. GTI Spindle Technology is North America's largest and most experienced independent spindle repair providers. They achieve or exceed OEM quality and testing standards while still delivering exceptional one-on-one personalized customer service and support. Since inception in 1997, they strive to provide excellence in root cause of failure analysis and reporting and cost reduction programs with partnering with the clients to implement best-in-class predictive maintenance and vibration analysis programs for their spindles and machine tools. With multiple U.S. service centers, they are poised to support manufacturing locations throughout North America. In the event that you have new spindle applications or replacement spindle needs, they offer a full line of new Purion speed spindles to suit any component manufacturing needs that you may have. Please visit www.gtispindle.com to learn more, or call anytime at 888-473-9675 to discuss how they can assist you. But what I would like to do, we probably should have done this more toward the beginning of the show, but you mentioned that you go into some of these places and they still don't know the technology or what it is, right? So cobots and robots, we're going to talk more on the cobot side of things. Collaborative robots for those of you out there listening right now. So if you don't mind, let's take a step back, and we might should have done this 30 minutes ago, but let's take a step back and just define what a cobot is. And let's talk a little bit, I think, about the flexibility, because you mentioned that also about, okay, I see a project here, 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 and here. Well, I know I can take that cobot into a machine shop and I can move it around on wheels and teach it so quickly that it can run one machine on one day and it can, switch some grippers the next day and run another part and whatever it might be. But I'd like for you to talk about what exactly, let's take it from the level of I don't know anything about cobots or even what they are. Exactly. And then let's take it to the flexibility of what they're able to create for anyone out there in any type of shop.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really great question, right? It's a great place to start, because I think that cobot, it gets stigmatized a little bit, and it's important to make sure we define exactly what it is, right? So I would say maybe in its basest sense, in the simplest sense, a cobot or a collaborative robot is a arm or robot that in most applications is designed to work safely next to people. The reason I caveat it with most, right, is that if I'm swinging, let's say I'm swinging a knife, right, on the end of the robot, I'm polishing knives or something, less collaborative than if I'm swinging a pillow. Right. So most applications, you're able to deploy these cobots without extra hard guarding, without extra safety. The reason for that is that to be a cobot, there's some form of inherent safety, right? And every cobot does things a little bit differently. The universal robot, it monitors current, that electrical current that flows to the joints. Right. And so when it sees spikes in those current values, essentially what it's reading is a force. Right. And what that translates to is that if you're operating and it bumps into you, it sees that spike in the current value. It knows that there's a force impedance in the way, and it stops. But every cobot does things a little bit differently. So it's important to know, if you're looking at cobots, exactly how they're collaborative. That's sort of the geeky cobot person in me. I guess, okay, so that's the basis definition. Other things that, in my opinion, as a cobot person, make something a collaborative robot are ease of use, right? User friendliness. And the reason for that is because you don't need, in most cases, that hard guarding and separation of space. Cobots are able to be deployed to places previously not where robots couldn't go, right? if you use the example of like if you need that hard separation of space, all of that floor space around the robot is off limits for human operation. So it makes it difficult to deploy like I would say maybe a traditional robot into really, really tight areas in a manufacturing floor, or areas where I can't eliminate the human step, right? The human has to be part, or they will always be part of the operation here or something. Those become great fits for cobots, right? With that flexibility, also bringing in ease of use allows the arm then to be able to be relocatable, right? Retoolable. It's a big paradigm shift. I tell customers all the time, again, because most don't have a good, deep understanding of cobots, is if you can wrap your mind around the automation's flexible, right? From a safety perspective and ease of use perspective, it's designed in such a way that I can deploy it to, let's say I'm tending a lathe, right? I'm deploying it to tending a lathe, and then I'm gonna move it from that station and deploy it to a mill, and with a simple change of a gripper and some new programming, right? And in some cases, maybe not even the change of a gripper. You just unplug it and plug it into a new place. I would say most customers that I see still don't have that click. And what happens is when they get their first one in, and then they see, oh, I got it. Now I understand the flexibility. Now I understand how simple it is to get tools that are plug and play. They start to know how to use the cobot. A great example, it's a case study that Universal Robots did with a customer in Indiana called Task Force Tips. And they make fire hose nozzles, right? The tips for a fire hose nozzle. The guy over there, I think he's the plant manager over there, had said that it's a paradigm shift, right? In thinking when you're deploying a cobot as an asset, it's different than technology has been. So it's important when you're looking at doing this to understand what makes it special and why it's different, because that will help identify applications, as well as help you understand how to use your workforce with the arm. But it's totally different, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. And for those out there listening who are really getting educated by Michael, like I am myself right now, I would just like to add, maybe from my perspective, that a lot of times with a robotic cell, you have all that fencing. It's set up for years, right? Like it's meant to repeat a part. But when we're talking about these cobots and the collaborative robot aspect of it and the flexibility of it, we can have quite small batch sizes and move it around, and it takes away that stigma or that misconception of I need to have 10,000 parts in order to invest in something like this. Well, no, not really. The investment will pay for itself quite quickly, and it can shift between an average batch size of 5 or 10 or 20, because we can teach these cobots at about the same pace of what to do as it would normally take me to set up my mill or my lathe anyway. So if I'm adding that automation to then walk away from the machine and not have to do my own part removal and put my part back into the machine itself, ultimately we're taking the same amount of time for the setup.
Yeah. Well, and what's been fun, because I CNC is something I've gotten more into since I've been at UR. I didn't do a ton of it when I was with Festo, and I didn't see it obviously at Frito. I've started to learn more about that industry and learn more about work and the kinds of, obviously everything at some point I'm sure is touching a CNC machine. Some of the customers that I've worked with that have deployed cobots, job shops, right, have started to iterate into finding work that best suits robots. And that's also been really exciting. Because I've seen there are a few customers that have gone from working only a single shift to where they deployed robots, and now they're automating lights out. And it's just because they've found the right work, they've taken the time to understand what cobots can do, and then they've utilized as well an ecosystem of plug and play tools, and that makes it easy as well. right? UR has this ecosystem of all of these accessories that are plug and play. And it's things like grippers, there's software kits, there's stands, there's, I mean, just about everything you can think of to accessorize, right, a robot into solving an application.
Yeah, you're right. And the future of these things is, I mean, limitless is a strong word, but I'm going to use it anyway. Limitless, right? I mean, UR has been around in comparison to some companies throughout the world when it comes to manufacturing for a somewhat short amount of time. But
Sure.
the amount of growth that's happened over that amount of time due to this necessity has been absolutely incredible and darn near unfathomable to understand. But it's watching UR grow and the people that are a part of it and the passion that's with it as well. It's fun as an outsider watching and seeing how many companies you guys are helping truly produce what we need to produce here in the US and around the world, but here in the US to compete globally. Modig Machine Tool was founded in 1947 in Sweden with a focus on building best-in-class machines. The family-owned company develops, engineers, and produces premium machines for high-performance machining in leading industries including aerospace, automotive, energy, and construction equipment. The Modig machine series are all designed and built with high-quality rigidity, high dynamic stability, and precision technology modules. The common denominators that give Modig machines the flexibility, adaptability, and versatility known as the Modig differentiators. Learn more with www.modig.se. That is www.modig.se. There's a conversation that's happening on a regular basis, and it probably comes up with you as well, is it's becoming not how much does my machine cost or how much does my cobot cost? It's what's my price per part going to be? And how low can I get my price per part? Because if I now I know that it's 50% less than it was before of my cost, I'm now making X amount and I can invest X amount, right? You have that conversation?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's been fun to get to watch those customers that really, that they take the time to understand it, right? It's just like anything else, right? You spend the time and you learn. If you understand it, and you make the investment, right? I mean, it's usually a time investment. I want to learn how it's programmed. I want to understand that flexibility element. Returns are amazing, right? And watching what this thing can do, it's really cool. And I mean, even just seeing some of the applications again, because of the safety and the ease of use, cobots are able to do things that other pieces of technology weren't always able to do. So I see applications that are incredible, amazing, things I never have thought you could put a robot in. And all of a sudden you see things being automated.
I agree. So I think I could probably talk to you about this topic forever. And although I'd like to, and maybe we'll stop recording this podcast and I'll continue doing that. I'm going to just real quickly, because I have your UR website pulled up for those folks out there who are probably going to do some research based on this conversation, and they're going to look up cobots. And I think it's important that they feel educated and to look up cobots as a general search, right? And do that research on their own. So I'm just going to take this quick moment and I'm going to say this quickly. So for those of you listening, you may want to hit rewind a few times because I'm going to be like an auctioneer real quick. But so I'm on your website, I'm in the About section, and at the forefront of innovation, there's all of these awards from 2011 on up to 2000, what am I looking at? 2019 here. And I imagine there's probably some more that haven't even been added to the site because of the success that you guys are creating. But we're talking about MWP Award for Best Automation System in 2011, Invention and Entrepreneurship Award 2012 by the IEEE Robotics Automation Society, 2013 Best Robotics Provider in Asian Manufacturing, 2014 Innovation Prize at the Portuguese EMAF exhibition, 2015 ranked 25 on MIT Technology, 2016 Best Robotics. Man, I'm running out of breath, guys. 2017, you are rated best in services category. 2017 ranked number 2 on Fastest Companies list of most innovative robotics companies. 2018 CTO and co-founder Esteban is awarded the Engelberger Robotics Award for Technology, also known as the Nobel Prize. That is super dope, guys. I'm reading this and learning with you at this very moment. So that was authentic reaction there. 2019 E-Series wins Control Engineering 2019 Engineers Choice Awards program. 2019 Frost and Sullivan UR is named Company of the Year with Collaborative Robots by Frost and Sullivan. 2019 honorable mention in industrial automation category for UR16E at the LEAP Awards in the US. That's just what's listed right there. I hope this resonates with all of you listening out there. I hope Michael's conversation today has resonated with all of you out there. Michael, just to close this out, if you have any advice you'd like to offer for the global audience that's listening, it could be personal, going back to your volunteer time. It could be educational based on your travel and school. It could be based on automation from the world that you're in right now. If you could close this out with a bit of advice for folks out there. And I think that will do it for this podcast, man. I really appreciate you, but that advice would be awesome. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. I think on the personal side, people are incredible, and what people can do when they put their minds to something is extraordinary. I've seen this through every element of my life, and personal stuff, and the stuff I volunteered with, at the church I go to, in work. And it's amazing to see what people can accomplish when they put their minds together and they're willing to join and work on a project collaboratively. It's incredible. So yeah, I mean, I am a big believer in people. I think people are incredible, absolutely amazing. I love that what's kept me at UR is the mission of UR. It's empowering people. That's what we want. We want to give a tool that empowers people. And that's resonated deep with me. That's why I love this company so much. Ultimately, it's about people. And so I don't know if it's advice. I guess I'd just say, believe in people, because they're amazing, and what they can do is amazing.
Well said. And, it takes a person of your character to appreciate that in others as well. So I am honored to have you on the Gunn Show. Such a privilege. Guys out there, gals out there, everyone listening, we appreciate you listening. Just to close this out, UR has sold more than 50,000 collaborative robots, which are used in several thousand production environments every day around the world. We appreciate you listening. Do research on your own, but I imagine through all your Google searches, you're going to find a lot of UR out there. Michael, thank you so much for being a part of the show and sharing this wisdom. Everyone out there, this is Michael DeGrace, the business development manager for UR. One last time, we put our hands together for my buddy Michael. Thank you so much, and we wish you all an amazing day.